Hello everyone, welcome to 3YTV, tonight's broadcast of the National Sim Racing Association Beer Street Journal Grand National Series here from the famed Daytona International Speedway in Daytona Beach, Florida. I'm Peter Short, and alongside me will be Garrett Gleason here tonight. Garrett, we have a long season in front of us, and it starts here tonight at the famed Daytona International Speedway. 2.5 miles, super speedway racing. It's going to be a lot of fun here tonight.
Peter, I am thrilled to be here, and if there's no greater testament to that than the fact that my beloved New York Giants are playing right now, and I am here for the start of this Beer Street Journal Grand National Series here in the National Sim Racing Association alongside you. I can't wait, buddy. It's going to be a heck of a show.
Yeah, it is definitely going to be a long season, that is for sure. And, of course, here tonight at Daytona International Speedway, we kick everything off just like they do in real life at Daytona at a super speedway. A lot on the lines and a lot to play for here tonight, Garrett.
Peter, and for most of these guys, this isn't their first race at Daytona this week. The National Sim Racing Association had a race yesterday at Daytona, which was full of action, and a lot of guys got laps with each other. And we also had another race on 3YTV in the Total Nonstop Racing League on Monday. So you pretty much know the track, you know the cars, but there's still a lot that is going to be decided during these 60 laps tonight. Nothing's set in stone. You could have new friends tonight. You could draft in different lines than you've been using all week. You might even have to throw a curveball to get to the front tonight. We'll see as these laps tick away.
Yeah, the laps will tick away rather quickly. 150 miles here tonight, 60 laps around Daytona International Speedway, and a lot of new names here in the series. You're looking at the number 74 machine right there. That's Micah Yellow in his machine right there, his Toyota Supra. And there is the number 4 of Martin Plute. Martin is up there inside the top 3. Mike is actually fastest in this practice session, although, Garrett, I'm sure you can attest to this. Practice doesn't mean a whole lot here at Daytona. It's all going to come down to when these drivers get behind the wheel. The green flag falls on the season. I'm sure some of these drivers have butterflies in their stomach with what is in front of them towards the end of the season. And of course, someone will be crowned the Beer Street Journal Grand National Series champion. And it really starts. The first chapter is here tonight at Daytona.
Yeah, first chapter of the season. Next week, going to a short track, the Nashville Fairgrounds. You need to have a good run. If you want to win this Beer Street Journal Championship, it starts tonight with a good run. My goal as Super Speedway is always complete all the laps, and I think for a championship contender, that's the mindset you need to have. Now, if you feel you need to start up front, then you're going to take that into qualifying and try to start up front. If you think you're going to ride the majority of the race, and that's how you're going to get to the end, then maybe you'll sit out qualifying. I can't wait to see what these guys do.
Yeah, and that's one thing I wanted to ask you, Garrett. Of course, you were out there on the racetrack last night here in the National Sim Racing Association in their truck series. What is your strategy to get the job done here tonight? We're going to see some drivers probably try and race their way to the front. Other drivers might take it a little bit more cautiously. You were on the racetrack with a lot of these faces last night. What do you think it's going to take here tonight at Daytona? I know your strategy last night didn't quite work out for you.
Actually, Peter, we were in these exact cars last night, the Grand National Series cars, so I do have a lot of experience, so hopefully I know what I'm talking about. But my strategy is always to get a group of my friends. Now, I have a lot of friends in the field, so I'm not singling anyone out, but I try to get a group that wants to be on the same strategy with me and stay in the back and keep our fenders clean. But that only works with trust, Peter. You know as well as anyone, I'm sure, that you can get run over from behind as you're slowing down for a wreck just as easily as you can get caught up in a wreck at one of these tracks.
Yeah, you never really know where the safe spot is here on the super speedways as we get a look at some of the drivers out there on the racetrack. Of course, here tonight, Brady Smith will be running in the National Sim Racing Association for the first time in the number 10 John Deere Toyota Supra. In fact, there's a little bit of a good group of new faces here as EisenTech and Prestige Worldwide have come together to make a little bit of a super team. Brady Smith, Corey Shellman, Drew Eisenman, Jeremiah Llewellyn, Josh Watt, and Race Clark will all be racing together out there on the racetrack, trying to make their mark on this season here from the get-go at Daytona. But as you can see, folks, 20 seconds left on the timer at the top left of your screen before we jump over into the qualifying session. Just checking on who we got in the chat here tonight. And Garrett, we got some great faces in the chat here tonight for the start of the Beer Street Journal Grand National Series. We got Mitchell Adams, Andrew Himmelman, William Kerwin, Kyle Lewis is in the chat. Melissa Cullen saying 18 wins, we're going to Disney. Man, that is a bold claim there, Garrett. The trip down to Disney is not cheap these days. And Melissa calling it. We're gonna have to root for Kyle Lewis here tonight to get him a trip to Disney.
Well, Peter, that's what I'm curious about. We're going to Disney. Does that mean you and I are also going to Disney? Because I've never been, and I'd like to go.
Unfortunately, the 3-wide TV budget is not quite that big just yet. Maybe one day, but right now the budget for 3-wide TV is, I don't know, I think we're scraping the bottom of the barrel, something like that. But hey, we got race cars out there. Garrett, it is qualifying time here, individual qualifying at Daytona. Here, much closer to Disney than I am, at least virtually a lot closer to Disney than I am here at Daytona, as Mike Aiello is out there on the racetrack. Shane Ledoux is out there on the racetrack as well. The Threat Level Midnight Machine, new look on the number 12. And great to see these Grand National Series cars in action here tonight. There's 3-wide TV's own Drew Eisenman turning a lap right now, trying to get it spooled up. Garrett, what about you? Qualifying at Daytona. Are you a fan? Are you not a fan? There's different strategies. Some people do it, some people don't. It seems like right now we have probably about a 50-50 split out there on the racetrack of drivers who have yet to head out to the racetrack and drivers who are out there right now trying to pick up the first pole of the season.
Earlier in my career, Peter, I would never qualify at super speedway races. I always wanted to start in the back, but for some reason, as I've gotten older and gotten more comfortable with these guys we race with, I like to try to start up front. Like, hey, you never know when you might sit on a pole. I remember last season, Kyle Lewis ended up sitting on a pole out of nowhere. I don't remember if it's the Truck Series or Super Speedway Series, but that's the type of shock you can have at these tracks if you get your out lap right, you run that high line on lap 1, and then get to that bottom on lap 2 with a lot of momentum. You never know, and then maybe you could lead some laps and earn some respect for later on in the race when you might need it.
Yeah, getting the pole on these racetracks, Garrett, it might not mean a whole lot in the race, but it definitely gives you a feel-good in your heart to start the season out front. As we got these times starting to trickle in right now, there's Jeremiah Llewellyn down in the 8th position right now. As I say that, drop back a couple more spots. There is Joshua Watt in the Shell Pennzoil Ford Mustang going through turn number 1 and 2 right now. Brady Smith in the number 10 John Deere. We mentioned that he's one of those worldwide, those prestige worldwide drivers, and he's out there in his Toyota Supra jumping up into the 2nd position right now. So you can see positions scrolling atop the top of your screen, and things will change very quickly. Mike Aiello is the first driver to complete his 2nd lap time. Drew Eisenman in the number 77 will jump to the provisional outside pole. Stephen Ford, Jason Gracias, their lap times are in. There's Jason Gracias' paint scheme. John Canizaro's put in his lap time, the number 17. We called him a little bit of a wild child earlier this week here on 3-Wide TV, Garrett. The fact that he kind of pops up in those positions, isn't afraid to get those hands dirty and put that number 17 in a precarious position to try and make some passes. We'll be keeping our eyes here tonight on the Wild Child as he shows us here on 3-Wide TV what he's made of there down the backstretch.
Peter, he's already making me nervous, and we didn't even hit the green flag yet. I was talking to him a bit pre-race. He seems unhinged, and for everybody that's racing around him, good luck tonight.
So here is one of the more barren-looking race cars out there on the racetrack. This is the Canadian driver, Mike Floppy Tellier. Couple of Canadian drivers in the field here tonight, Mike being one of those, Joshua Watt being another. But Mike Floppy Tellier hailing from Sarnia, Ontario, just across the border from the United States. And Tellier here currently well down the board, but I gotta say, Garrett, I'm sure Mike won't be all too concerned with that. We'll see if he can pick it up on lap number 2. Jeff Price in the number 14 just started his second lap time, but I don't think Jeff will have enough time to complete his second flying lap. Telly are going to jump himself up inside the top 10 to the outside of row number 4. And it looks like, Garrett, just based off of the number of cars that we have out there right now and the amount of time that we have left, it will be Mike Aiello who will be starting on the pole. Mike Aiello Jr., that is, in the number 74 machine. So newcomer to the league, already on the pole here tonight for tonight's Beer Street Journal 150 at Daytona.
Peter, he was in the field last night, and he was fast from the get-go. He led laps. He ran up front pretty much the entire race. He worked a lot, I think, with Chris Darling and those guys up towards the front. So no surprise here to see Aiello take the pole.
So that is going to do it here. And for our qualifying session, let's see if we can now get things lined up for tonight's starting lineup here at Daytona International Speedway. And Garrett, it is definitely going to be one heck of a race here tonight at the Daytona International Speedway. Let's see if we can bring up those starting lineup. And sure enough, Mike Aiello is on the pole. Travis White alongside him. Jeffrey Vickery, Drew Eisenman on row number 2, Stephen Ford, Jason Gracias on row number 3, John Cannizzaro, Mike Floppy Tellier, row 4, and rounding out your top 10 here tonight, Brady Smith and Joshua Sobel there, Garrett.
Our good friend Kyle Lewis rolling off 11th. Newcomer Jeremiah Llewellyn rolls off 12th. Martin Pluth from Illinois in the number 4 machine rolls off 13th. Corey Shillman rolls off 14th in the number 9. Joshua Watt in the number 20 car rolls off 15th. Alongside Shane Ledoux in the number 12. Matt Cherry will be starting 17th. Jeff Price, who's always fast, will be starting in the 8th position. Race Clark in the number 02 rolls off 19th, alongside Dalton Hayes in the familiar 47 that we've seen on 3Y TV before.
Yeah, and so out of those 20 drivers that you've gone through, Garrett, the top 18 were able to put in a lap time. So 19th and 20th that you had there did not set a lap time, and of course everyone back behind them did not as well. In 21st position, Christopher Darling, Ben Mashburn in the number 24. How many times have we seen Chris Darling and Ben Mashburn work together here on the Super Speedways on 3Y TV? Expecting to see more of that here tonight as they come from row number 11. Justin White and Jason Shu will be making up row number 12, and that will be the final row of all the starters that we have here tonight at the Daytona International Speedway. The iRacing pace car just getting set to start rolling out onto the racetrack. The flagman will be getting us the green flag here in just about a lap. And Garrett, this racetrack, you race down the front stretch. I've done it many times here on the iRacing simulator. You see how big the grandstands are. You get to feel the speed when you're in these cars. We're going to have a couple of onboard shots here tonight. Really looking forward to that. But this racetrack, with all of its fame that it has, it really is a special place, whether you're, there in person or whether you're racing there in the virtual world in the iRacing simulator.
It truly is the Super Bowl of NASCAR racing, Daytona. And when you're a league administrator like myself, Chris Darling and Justin White, when we're coming up with schedules, sometimes it seems tacky to start at Daytona. But when you look at this place and how beautiful it is and what type of racing it provides, how could you not start here? Or at the very least, have it towards the beginning of the schedule. It brings people out. Everybody likes racing here. And it's going to put on a good show for us here on 3Y TV and for the Beer Street Journal Grand National Series.
Yeah, and of course, big shout out to our series sponsor, BeerStreetJournal.com. If you're like myself and you are a craft beer aficionado, BeerStreetJournal.com is the place to check out. I must say, me being in Texas, we just got, very recently, Yuengling started to be distributed to the state of Texas. That wasn't a thing. Garrett, I know you're up there in the northeast portion. I know you probably grew up around Yuengling, but down here in Texas, we just got it. So pretty cool to see that. And of course, Beer Street Journal covered that when that news broke. So definitely check out BeerStreetJournal.com here tonight as we are getting set to go. Green flag as the field is coming on by. Pace car headed down pit road. We're getting set to go. Green flag here at Daytona, and there it is. Garrett, we're racing here at the World Center of Racing.
And they're off, Peter, and let's hope for a good season. I hope for all these competitors to get through these opening laps in one piece, and we'll see what they have for us at the end. And thanks to everybody that's tuned in. Thanks to the new sponsor, like you mentioned, Victory Journal, and I can't wait to see what happens.
Yeah, there's links in the description, folks, to the series sponsors, so make sure you check those out. As we head down the backstretch for the first time here tonight, here comes Jeffrey Vickery, the number 21 machine, with a little bit of help from the number 27 of Stephen Ford back behind him. Those are two teammates in the 21 and the 27. They have pretty similar paint schemes. The red 21 and the blue 27 hooked up on that high side. And Garrett, earlier this week here at Daytona International Speedway, we saw that high line be very strong, hoping we'll get to see some more of that here tonight, but it will be the inside line. Mike Aiello in the number 74 machine will lead lap number 1 of the series. 2.5 miles in the books, just 147.5 here to go at Daytona here tonight. They will fly by in a hurry because, Garrett, they're at speed right now, 185 miles an hour going down the backstretch.
Carrying all that speed and weaving back and forth as the air pushes you next to a car, away from a car, forward, backward. Peter, it's truly incredible. I'm just glad you're the one doing the math so I can enjoy this racing. But as we see, it looks like the high line is actually headed backwards a little bit. Curious to see how strong the high line is tonight compared to the other races we've been in this week. It seemed like just a couple cars in the high line were able to make ground, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and of course, like you said, you were in this very car last night right here at Daytona. I mean, how did the car race last night? We can bring up the current track conditions just to give people an indication. The track temperature is quite cool tonight at 72 degrees Fahrenheit. That should give these drivers plenty of grip as they head around this racetrack. And you can see that all those drivers using the grip. Chris Darling back there in the yellow transportation, number 70, going down below the yellow line, towards the back of this group. But they got plenty of grip out there, Garrett, and they're definitely using it as your front 5 drivers now getting single file.
Yeah, a little bit of a breakaway on the bottom here, Peter, and as you alluded to with the track temperature being that way and the grip levels being high, I think that suits guys like Ben Mashburn and Jason Gracias, guys we've raced with that make those kamikaze moves, albeit under control moves, but they're not afraid to mix it up, and all that grip is only going to help them get to the front when they decide the time is right.
High line trying to form up once again with John Cannizzaro. He's got Jeffrey Vickery tucked up back behind him. And, of course, that number 1 machine that you see up there, Jason Gracias, of course, a little bit of the Force India vibes on the number 1 Chevrolet Camaro. And he has the number 54 machine running back behind him. That's number 54 on that car, number 5 on the scoring pylon. That is actually Matt Cherry in his Stay Tuned Sports podcast, Ford Mustang. And of course, Garrett, tomorrow night here on 3Y TV, the National Sim Racing Association kicks off the Stay Tuned Sports podcast series. It's going to be a lot of fun. Very much looking forward to that one. That one's going to start at 9 o'clock Eastern right here at Daytona. So this week, even though we're in the month of September, halfway through the month of September, it's kind of feeling like we're in the month of February. We've got all these races on 3Y TV this week at Daytona International Speedway, and I'm just absolutely loving it, because these drivers putting on a show, and they're putting on a show for us once again here tonight as Mike Aiello still leading. I believe it's pronounced Aiello.
Aiello.
I'm gonna have to practice that one, G. Aiello. There we go. I think I said it. Mike Aiello. Yeah, I'm gonna have to practice that one during the week, guys. He's up at the front of the field. John Cannizzaro to his outside, and back behind him, the number 21 machine of Jeffrey Vickery, and now side by side for the race lead.
Peter, I want to give a shout out to that number 77. You're talking about tomorrow. There's your tomorrow partner in the booth. I get to go replace him on track, but if he's running up front this early, I don't think I'm going to be able to compete with that.
Well, anything can happen here at Daytona, Garrett. We're only a couple laps in, lap 6 of 60, and so far these drivers just kind of pacing themselves. You see a little bit of side-by-side action. Now John Cannizzaro pushed to the race lead by Jeffrey Vickery. These drivers, they're being pretty cautious at this stage of the race. Maybe they realized what happened last night, and Garrett, I think you mentioned to me that there was an accident early on. Maybe they kind of learned from that and said, you know what, let's get a little bit further into the race before we get slicey and dicey. And I don't blame them. Here at Daytona, You just got to go out there. You got to turn some laps. That's the way I like to do it. Just go out there, turn some laps. You're not going to win the race on lap number 10 at Daytona. That's just not going to happen at all. But, you can start to work your way up as the race goes on. Get yourself in position. And I like to be in position before the first pit stops, because when the first pit stops happen, that's your first opportunity, in my opinion, to make a big move of the race. Now, whether we'll see green flag pit stops or not here tonight at Daytona, only time will tell, but hopefully we can get some good green flag action. I want to look a little bit further back towards the back of this lead pack as Dalton Hayes in the number 47 machine, Garrett's a little bit of front-end damage on that Chevy Camaro.
I wonder what happened there, Peter. You think he caught somebody at the wrong time and gave them too good of a bump draft type tap there? Somebody got in the brakes maybe to avoid someone else. So we'll have to see who has some rear end damage. Maybe we can put two and two together here and figure out what happened to the number 47 of Dalton Hayes. Yeah,
I'm not 100% sure, but he was able to suck up to the back bumper Ben Mashburn in the number 24 machine. A couple Hendrick-looking cars right there with the number 47, of course, a throwback to Texas Terry Labonte's Kellogg's car that he ran back in the early 2000s, and of course the number 24, you can't miss that one. Of course, a throwback to a Jeff Gordon scheme on Ben Mashburn, and you see Ben Mashburn typically run those Jeff Gordon-inspired schemes. He's running right behind the number 18 of Kyle Lewis in the 10th position right now, fourth car on that high line in the very common Kyle Lewis machine. And running there down the backstretch. Now we're going to go 3 wide. How about this? Jason Gracias there, Garrett, going to say, I'm going to take it 3 wide and see how the 3 wide action works here.
Well, Peter, not something I would necessarily do this early in the race, but Jason Gracias is one of the most experienced racers in the field, and he knows what he's doing, and if he has a run and he feels like he can safely pass cars, because I'm sure Jason doesn't want to wreck out of this race early, so every move he makes, even though it might look a bit aggressive, it's a calculated move, and he's going to get to the front one way or another when it's all said and done. As we're looking back here, single file, these guys are minding their P's and Q's here towards the back of the field.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to bring attention to. We're on board right now with Christopher Darling. He's maintaining a gap to Joshua Watt, the Canadian driver, right in front of him. Darling's in that position, Garrett, where if he wanted to close up to the back bumper of the number 20 in front of him, he could. He's just kind of managing that distance, trying to give him a little bit of breathing room. If there is an accident that happens up towards the front of the field, he can slow up. Here's Ben Mashburn on board, thinking about going 3 wide to the high side of Kyle Lewis, and did not get a run, although here he comes, going to come through the tri-oval. Oh my goodness, Garrett, that door almost got shut in his face as he now ducks back behind Kyle Lewis, but things may be starting to get just a little bit more crazy here at Daytona as we're just past the 10-lap mark. First 25 miles in the books here tonight at Daytona International Speedway in the Beer Street Journal Grand National Series. As I think that was some sparks being thrown up by Ben Mashburn, but look at this. We almost 3 wide as Aiello in the number 74 machine on the inside. Jeffrey Vickery there slicing his way through the middle, tried to slice his way through the middle there, Garrett, but the door was shut by the number 17 of John Cannizzaro, and Cannizzaro and Aiello will be side by side coming to the stripe this time.
Peter, Cannizzaro, Aiello, Vickery, Smith, all these guys are doing a great job, but now that Ben Mashburn and Jason Gracias are linked up, I look for them to have the lead very quickly here.
We shall see. Here comes the field racing past the digger cam in turn number 1. The whole field racing past it, and Garrett, really everyone is pretty much still together at this point. All 24 starters here tonight at Daytona, and the field is very much wide open at this stage of the race. If your favorite driver is a little bit further back in the pack, just wait. This draft package that we have here with these Grand National Series cars is pretty impressive, where you can get really strong runs, be pulled back up to the pack, especially with the big hole of air that the front few drivers who are running side by side are punching in the air, and now they are now 3 wide for the race lead as Jeffrey Vickery goes to the high side. Same thing, Garrett, that I saw his teammate do a little while ago there, but Jeffrey Vickery now sliding back, maybe going back to pick up Stephen Ford, but I saw just a lap before Stephen Ford was put 3 wide in the tri-oval. Well, now This time, it's his teammate in the number 21 machine, but looks like Cannizzaro with a big push from behind with Ben Mashburn. Are they go? Oh, here comes Mashburn. Mashburn, I was thinking he was going to push Cannizzaro down to the low line, but Mashburn says, you know what, buddy? I want to lead at Daytona.
Peter, who was it that just said the 24 was going to be leading in no time? Was that me? I can't remember. I'm just so good at this. It gets silly after a while. But as we saw the 27, the 21 go backwards, their loss is always somebody else's gain, and the momentum was on the side of the 24 of Ben Mashburn as he leads that lap.
So Mashburn leads his first lap, not only of the race, but of the season here tonight in the DuPont number 24 Chevrolet. John Cannizzaro running in that high line, got Jason Gracias in the number 1 right back behind him. And then you got Brady Smith and Drew Eisenman both running down there in the low line, just about where they have been for the start of this race, Garrett. It seems like Brady and Drew have been content in the third car on the inside groove. They haven't really moved around. I think they're just kind of letting things play out. They know they're in a relatively good spot. They're not back in the hornet's nest. They're just in front of where we say that hornet's nest is, back kind of around the 10th to 16th position or so. And so Drew and Brady probably trying to learn some things maybe for later on in the race and how some of these cars are racing around them, because the more experience you have racing up at the front of the field, Garrett, the more I believe that you learn little things that you can use later in the race if you are up there inside the top 5 to try and win the race. So I think it's a smart move right now from both Brady and Drew to just kind of hold station. Again, you can't win the race on lap number 15. There's still a long way to go, but we are closing in quickly on the quarter race distance.
Absolutely going to agree with what you said, Peter. You learn about yourself during these races, but you also learn about the competitors. You learn who you work the best with, who holds the steadiest line that you'd like to be able to push. Everything you put in your notebook, because when it comes time at the end of the race, you'll have that knowledge to bank on, and it'll be very helpful. You'll say, oh geez, I was behind that guy before, and we tried to make a run up top, and he stalled the entire lane out. I'm not working with him this time, and you'll make the move. All that's going to come back. We'll see who uses their notebook to their advantage on lap 60.
Absolutely. So 1/4 of the race in here tonight. Let's go check out the chat here on 3 Wide TV. If you're in the chat, you want to make yourself or get yourself heard, make sure you punch something into the chat. We got Andrew Himmelman saying, I wish iRacing would put the cup package on all cars like they are in real life. Andrew Himmelman saying Garrett is the GOAT. There you go, Garrett. You got a fan in the chat. JT Poole saying, let's go Mashburn. Mitchell Adams saying, I want action. Let's go, guys. Mitchell, what action do you want? I don't think you can get much better than this, what we have here tonight on 3 Wide TV. William Kerwin saying, bit more tame than last night so far. Garrett, would you agree with William's statement?
Yeah, I'd agree 100%. That made me chuckle. It was definitely more chaotic, but and again, these guys are running the same car in 2 different series. Yesterday's PGA Super Speedway Series, the Beer Street Journal Series tonight. But the difference is, yesterday you had a faster pair. So, as we've seen historically with faster pairs, guys get a little bit crazier out there. This is for points. There are no mulligans tonight. So I'm not surprised to see guys in the single file tonight, running, for the most part, single file, even all the way back to the pack.
And that's a great point, Garrett, that you bring up there, because last season, here our Thursday night season in the National Sim Racing Association was the Super Speedway Series, and every driver did have a fast repair. Well, this season, now on Thursday night, we got the Grand National Series, and the Grand National Series, brought to you by BeerStreetJournal.com, doesn't have any of those fast repairs. So if you get into it with another driver, as Jason Gracias got into the back bumper of Ben Mashburn, but if you get involved in a big accident, it is going to be potentially day done. You can't just come down, get a fresh race car like you could in the Super Speedway Series on Thursday nights about 2 months ago. It's been about 2 months since that series finished. So it is going to be really interesting to see how these drivers adapt to that. And I think what you just said, Garrett, is these drivers are actually maybe playing things a bit more cautiously, knowing that if your car is junked up, it's junk. You ain't going to get back out there with a fresh race car. It is going to be as fast. So maybe that's something going through some of these drivers' heads. Maybe it's not. Maybe they just don't want to wreck. I mean, wrecking's never a good thing anyway. But at least up at the front, it has been very quiet here. Let's go check out some of these drivers maybe a little bit further back inside the top 10 that we haven't exactly highlighted here tonight. Whoa, we got drivers coming down pit road. We'll put that on hold. Here comes John Cannizzaro and Mike Aiello Jr. in the number 74. Kyle Lewis also coming down onto pit road. So 3 takers here, Garrett. Right on the end of lap number 19, not quite making it to the 1/3 race distance. In fact, 20 laps is the 1/3 race distance, so maybe these drivers maybe cutting it just a little bit short on fuel. Interesting to see that. Stephen Ford in the number 27 also on pit road, and something must have happened to Stephen Ford because, as you can see, folks, he was quite a ways back from the other drivers who pitted. Let's see if we get some more coming down pit road here this time, Garrett.
Peter, we had green flag pit stops last night, and the first group on pit road actually had a huge advantage. As we see some contact between the 97 and now into the 24, it might be enough to bring out a yellow, and yeah, there'd definitely be enough to bring out a yellow now, Peter.
Yeah, that's it. They're still wrecking. They're still wrecking. That has got to be one of the crazy. We're still green flag. Can you believe this? And there's more contact as Chris Darling goes around in his pit box. Now he's backing up. Brady Smith having to find his way through the 0-0. My, oh my, we're still green flag. That group of drivers who's still out there on the racetrack, Joshua Sobel, Jeff Price, they might be the smartest drivers in town. We got one car off the pace back there. I couldn't tell, or maybe that was a 27 kind of trying to come up to speed. But it looks like Josh Sobel's coming to pit road this time. But folks, my oh my, I've never seen that happen in all my days of sim racing. Let's see if we can slow this one down here on the 3Y TV slow-mo here, Garrett. I don't know if drivers didn't know that they were coming down pit road. You can see everyone coming down. Brady Smith and Drew Eisenman keeping spacing. And looks like Jeff Price just came straight down into Mike Tellier. And I don't know, was that a second incident there, Garrett, with Jeffrey Vickery? Hold on, let's slow this one up. We're still green flag, folks. Let's go back and see if we can see what happened. Keep your eyes on the kind of the maroon number 21 machine because he's coming down the racetrack. Obviously, yeah, I don't know there. That might have just been iRacing net code. And then the 10 goes around off the nose of the 77. Then watch the number 97 of Tellier. He's coming down the racetrack. He clobbers the number 24 back there. And then the one of Gracias gets a hip check. Drew Eisenman going into a funnel. Gets into the back of Jeffrey Vickery. Jason Gracias getting some more. And then further back, look at Shane Ledoux. Look at the 4 machine there. Getting all types of sideways. Getting maybe into the number 12 machine. The 21 of Vickery's around. The 12 of Ledoux starts to go around. And then a little bit further back, the 0 of Jeremiah Llewellyn gets into the 4. The 9 gets into him. And the 9 is Corey Shellman right there, the K&N water filters machine. And then there was more contact with the number 11 of Christopher Darling. I mean, Garrett, it's been a long time since I last saw a pit lane as chaotic as this one. And we are still green flag. So we're going to have to quickly kind of go through that replay and then catch up with what's actually happening out there on the racetrack right now. We got more drivers coming down pit road as we'll bring up the graphic here. But right now it is Mike Aiello and John Cannizzaro and Kyle Lewis, really your top 3. And they have about a 4-second gap over Josh Sobel in 3rd.
Peter, I was going to ask you if we had it in the budget for that Benny Hill music, because that's what that pit road mayhem reminded me of. We needed that in the background as we're breaking it down. But from my quick take on that, I'm not sure Floppy was pitting there. If he was, maybe his line into the pits was taken. It seemed like he wanted to stay out. The 27 was committed. And I know it's a rule in this league to call out when you're pitting, so I can't imagine somebody didn't call it out and just came in. Maybe different numbers, different series. There was some confusion there, but that's a truly horrific set of circumstances for a lot of very talented race car drivers and a lot of guys who were capable of winning tonight. But these three guys right here are in the catbird seat. Kyle Lewis catches a draft off the 17 and the 74 of Aiello here, and if you're these guys, you want this race to stay green to the end. All your competition is pretty much back there on pit road.
Yeah, and speaking of pit road, we got quite a few drivers on pit road right now. Jeremiah Llewellyn is sitting on pit road. Martin Plute is sitting on pit road. Christopher Darling is sitting on pit road. Ben Mashburn is out of the number 24 machine. So all those drivers extended stays on pit road. We also saw Drew Eisman, a very long pit stop for him with trying to fix all of his damage. Corey Shellman, a long pit stop. Mike Floppy Tellier, Jeffrey Vickery, those drivers having really long pit stops, Garrett. And as you can see, the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, that graphic just shows how broken up this field is. Your leaders right now, which you can see right here on your screen, are kind of in the top right of the graphic, just now headed onto the backstretch. You can see the number 18 of Kyle Lewis pretty prominent there. And then you have to go back a ways to this group of cars, which is Josh Sobel, Matt Cherry, Travis White, Jason Gracias in the number 1, who, Garrett, I thought his night might be done, but he's still sticking with this second group. And tagging on with this group is also Dalton Hayes. And then, behind this, you have to go 18 seconds back to Jason Shue, who's with this group of drivers. Shue is there. Race Clark in the 02, the NASA machine right there. He's in that group. Then Stephen Ford, Shane Ledoux, a couple of the threat level midnight teammates there. I know Drew Eisman heavily damaged in the number 77. He is currently being scored 1.5 laps down in the Eisen Designs number 77. So this field extremely broken up, but the big question is going to be, can this pack of 5 cars, Garrett, can they catch the cars in front of them, which are your lead 3 drivers?
I think they absolutely can, Peter. I mean, you would obviously have the telemetry to back that up, and I do love that track overlay that we have here on 3Y TV. I feel like that's a game changer as far as knowing which cars are on the track and being able to figure out the gap and if guys are going to be able to catch. But I'm sure you could tell me what all these fancy data points mean in the bottom right, Peter, because I'm way too late in the day to know what any of that means.
Well, this is tracking the distance lap after lap between the car we ride on board with in 4th spot, Joshua Sobel, and Kyle Lewis in front of him. And it's trending to being smaller. So the gap on lap number 23 was 4.1 seconds. It's now down to 2.4 last time at the start-finish line. And as you can see, actually above that, there is a live number, which is almost down to 1.5 seconds. So, Garrett, we are going to have at least 8 drivers now up at the front of the field contending for this lead. But I do kind of want to go back just a little bit, Garrett, and it goes back to putting yourself in the right position for pitting on pit road. For me, I always want to be on the inside line coming down pit road. If, you look at that fuel number and you realize, I can go an extra lap or so and I'm on the high line, maybe that's the best thing to do. Maybe getting yourself into the low line a lap before you might need to. Maybe that's a good idea for you to do that, just to get yourself into the right position to head down pit road. But unfortunately, I think we had some drivers on the high line, some drivers on the inside line, doing different things, and it led to that big accident coming down pit road. Of course, green flag stayed out. Now you're starting to see some of the traffic that was involved in that accident go 1 lap down, as we just saw Brady Smith fall 1 lap down, Corey Shellman falling 2 laps down in the number 9 machine. Those 2 drivers are working together. They're in the same Discord channel, I believe, and unfortunately, those 2 drivers, you can tell visibly, they are off the pace, but can confirm Joshua Sobel, Matt Cherry are definitely within striking distance of the front 3 now. Travis White, however, in the number 23 has fallen back. Same thing with Jason Gracias here and Dalton Hayes. So it seems like those two drivers of Sobel and Cherry got locked up nose to tail, and they closed in on the lead train, and they left a couple of other drivers behind them. So I thought it was going to be an 8-car battle for the lead, but it looks like, Garrett, it's only going to be 5.
Yeah, Peter, only a 5-car battle here for the lead, but cautions can happen. So if I'm one of these guys that are back from this lead group, that obviously you're hoping for a caution, you're praying for a caution. Heck, you might even be asking for some sort of mythical rain on the track or something. But for these guys that are one lap down, more than one lap down, if your car is still drivable to the point where you could keep with another car, don't give up, because there's going to be 2 more pit stops. Stuff can happen. You can get your laps back. Now, any more than 2 laps, I would say probably not. But if you're 2 laps down or less, keep your head up. We still have half the race to go, and anything can happen.
Anything can happen, and Mike Aiello up there at the front of the field having a little connection blip right there. He is having another one right here. Looks like hopefully that disappears here as the field is catching up to the back of the number 2 of Justin White in his Pennzoil Chevrolet. Looks like the 00 gonna peel down to the low side. That's Jeremiah Llewellyn. You can see just how much damage he has on the 00 here tonight. You can't even really tell what the manufacturer is. I can tell you, folks, it is a Toyota, but you can't tell that from the front, as Llewellyn here not going to have a great start to his National Sim Racing Association Beer Street Journal Grand National Series career. But up at the front of the field, Garrett, we got a new race leader. How about the number 18 of Kyle Lewis using some of this traffic, namely the 2 of Justin White, to get himself up to the front. And also the number 23 of Travis White has now joined the battle for the race lead. The 2 of Justin White is in the 13th position, currently 1 lap down. We are down now, Garrett, to just 12 cars on the lead lap as they run. If a caution flag was to come out, Justin White would be the beneficiary of a lucky dog, and I'll tell you what, he is really wanting that lucky dog right now, that's for sure. He's hoping to see a caution. He's just hoping he isn't the caution in the bright yellow Pennzoil Chevrolet.
Yeah, Justin White, let's give a shout out to him for leading this series. Justin does a tremendous job administrating for me in our Monday Night League, and he put this together. They recruited a lot of new faces, and it's heartbreaking to see him 1 lap down at this point, but he definitely still has speed in the number 2 Pennzoil car, and he could definitely be a player by the end of this race. But another thing, as Kyle Lewis had the lead there for a bit, Peter, I'm glad to see Kyle Lewis is making some new friends on the track, because after the other races this week, he probably doesn't have any of his old friends left. So it's nice to see some guys that are new working with Kyle, and we'll see how long that lasts for.
Yeah, Kyle Lewis up at the front of the field might be a little bit of a lone wolf here tonight, but he's showing everyone up at the front of the field with Mike Aiello leading another lap. Of course, Mike started on the pole, and he's running up there at the front, so he's kind of proving me wrong, Garrett, as people typically do up here in the 3-wide TV booth. I mentioned earlier that, getting the pole, it's not that big of a deal. Well, Mike has been up there at the front of the field since the drop of the green flag, although Kyle Lewis and Mike Aiello getting a little bit close to one another there coming down the back stretch. But those 2 drivers sticking right close with one another, including John Canizaro in the number 17 on that top side. He's been up there inside the top 4 or 5. But going back to another point that I said, I like to be on the inside of the racetrack when we come down pit road. And speaking of pit road, we'll probably have more green flag pit stops here in about 6 laps from now. Hopefully they go a little bit better than the first time. But I was watching Drew Eisenman and Brady Smith. Those 2 drivers are exactly where I like to be when pit stop happen. In fact, Drew Eisenman almost went all the way down to the inside wall to say, you know what, I'm going to stay out of the mess here. I'm going to try and get as far away from it as I can. And unfortunately, for Drew, the track just closed up. I feel like Drew was in a great position just when the wreck happens. Sometimes it doesn't really matter where you are on the racetrack here. Garrett, you and I know we've been involved in the big one at Daytona in sim races for many, many years. Sometimes it's just right place, wrong time.
Truly is, Peter, and for I don't know what kind of percentage you want to break it down to, but for like 75% of those guys that were caught up in that pit road incident, maybe even more, they did nothing wrong. I'm sure they called out they were pitting. They had it mapped out. Hey, I'm going to go inside. You're going to go outside, inside, outside. We're going to stagger. And it just didn't matter because once that chain reaction started, everybody was along for the ride. And the only guys that got through that pretty much were the guys that didn't pit with the big group. I never like pitting with a group of double-digit cars at these type of tracks, Peter. Too much can go wrong. That's why I always try to stick with the 5-6 guys I'm comfortable with. We all know each other's braking points for the most part, and we don't run each other over. But with a new series, new faces, you don't know everybody's braking points and how hard they're going to come to pit road. So let's see with the second round of pit stops the adjustments that these guys made so that we don't have that happen again.
Yeah, we will have to see what those adjustments are as we close in now. Just 23 more laps to go. And I do want to make mention, Garrett, that out of this group of drivers that we're looking at right now, Mike Aiello, Kyle Lewis, and John Cannizzaro, those three drivers pitted together on lap number 19. You just mentioned you don't like pitting with the big pack. Those three drivers, they pitted by themselves, not with the big pack, and it definitely paid dividends. The big question is going to be, will Aiello, Lewis, and Cannizzaro, can they actually make it to inside 20 laps to go? We've only seen drivers make it 20 laps on a single tank of fuel under that first... well, that's not necessarily true. Josh Sobel, sitting right now in third in the number 56 machine, he actually made it 21 laps on the first tank of fuel. He was the only driver to be able to do so in the entire field, I do believe. So we will see whether or not someone else, like Aiello, like Cannizzaro, like Kyle Lewis, can make it 21 laps here to make it to lap number 40, but they might be a little close on fuel, so that's something we will definitely be keeping our eyes on. When will we see these drivers right here on your screen come down pit road? It might be as early as this lap. Will Aiello pull off? Indeed he will. We got more pulling off as well. A mixed bag up at the front of the field. Looks like the number 23, Travis White, hot on the brakes. Doing a great job at number 23 to scoot around the high side. But Garrett, we are in a very interesting predicament here. 21 laps to go. And Joshua Sobel, the only driver out there on the racetrack, he does have the number 2 of Justin White helping him out behind. Do we think Aiello, White, Cannizzaro, Cherry, who's also on pit road in the Stay Tuned Sports number 5 machine, do we think that those drivers are actually short on fuel?
Peter, I think they're short, and I've been wrong before, so it won't be the first time. Definitely not the first time on the broadcast this week. But if I was those guys, I wouldn't have been leading that pack. I would have been towards the back of that pack, saving as much fuel as possible. You're all leading the pack, dragging all those cars with you. You're using more fuel, unless I'm completely wrong, and in that case, please correct me, Peter. But it's nice to see Josh Sobel back in the National Sim Racing Association, leading some laps with the Sheriff Justin White behind him, albeit a lap down. So welcome back, Josh. He's a good guy, and I'm glad to see him back.
Yeah, definitely great to see Josh Sobel back in the National Sim Racing Association. Do have some things that we need to update you folks on, however, but mixed strategies on pit road here. Garrett, Travis White, John Cannizzaro, Matt Cherry, these three drivers we're looking at right now, they elected to take fuel only on that pit stop. Meanwhile, Mike Aiello in the number 74 machine, he elected to take 2 tires on that pit stop. And he's lost quite a bit of time. Dalton Hayes also, he's just now rolling out there on the racetrack. He took 2 tires on that stop. Josh Sobel in the number 56. He's on pit road this time. 19 laps to go as he goes across the start-finish line in the number 56 machine. It's going to be an interesting finish to the race here, Garrett. We're not sure if these drivers can make it on fuel. Different strategies on the racetrack with fuel consumption and even tire choices. This could be one where we're scratching our head all the way to the checkered flag.
Yeah, I'm certainly scratching my head, Peter. It's so hard to predict what strategy is going to be the winning one tonight. And with these cars spread out as much as they are, the odds of a caution happening are dwindling. And it's going to take somebody doing something really aggressive or, let's be honest, really stupid to bring out a yellow at this point with the field spread out as much as it is. So we're going to have to see if the decision to take 2 tires and lose the draft hurts Aiello when it comes down to it.
Oh, Jason Shu, the number 3 machine, almost took out Josh Sobel. Just caught the wall. You saw the leaders there slicing their way on through as kind of the mixed bag of strategy started to rear their head just a little bit. Travis White, John Cannizzaro, and Matt Cherry sitting 1, 2, 3 up at the front of the field. Josh Sobel is slotted into this group of 3 cars, the 2 threat level midnight teammates right there of Stephen Ford and Shane Ledoux running in 10th and 11th. We are now, folks, believe it or not, we are down to just 9 cars on the lead lap, and it will soon be 8 cars on the lead lap as Race Clark in the 02 NASA Ford Mustang is being caught rather quickly by Travis White, John Cannizzaro, and Matt Cherry right there, but looks like this could be a little bit of a pack here forming up at the front of the field with some lappers in the lead mix. And Garrett, when that happens, as a race car driver, if I'm in that lead pack and I got some lappers in there, you know what? It's not the end of the world. You can actually use them to your advantage. Now, I'm also hearing, Garrett, there might have been a little bit of an incident out there on the racetrack. The number 10 machine of Brady Smith, it looks like he came off pit road. Not sure if he got some type of a speeding penalty, but Brady kind of pulled it down to the inside of the racetrack. We all know nothing runs like a deer until it stops out there on a racetrack, and that number 10 just jumped to pit road. So it looks like Brady Smith's night has come to a premature end. Let's jump back live up at the front of the field. Travis White now up at the front of the field for the first time tonight, Garrett.
Travis White, out of nowhere, it seems like Peter takes the lead, and the 17 of Wildman John Cannizzaro in tow. But Peter, if it's not too much trouble, and we could kind of go through the field here a little bit and kind of give everybody an update of where everybody's running, how far they are away from the lead, I feel like that might be helpful with so many different strategies playing out.
Yeah, different strategies galore. Travis White is your race leader here tonight. Of course, he started on the outside pole in the Carolina Chevy Camaro. Last on pit road on lap number 39. He's the first of those drivers that we are questioning whether or not they can make it to the end of the race. But so far, so good for the number 23 machine here tonight. John Cannizzaro, who also pitted on lap number 39, also in that boat of drivers we are unsure about whether or not they can get to the end of the race, especially if we get a Beer Street Journal last call towards the end of the race. But Cannizzaro has had a really good night. Not a scratch on the Texaco Haviland Ford Mustang. Cannizzaro up there towards the front. Matt Cherry in number 5, the Stay Tuned Sports Machine. I mean, typically Jimbo is nice and loud in the Stay Tuned Sports, but a pretty quiet night for Matt Cherry so far in the green machine as he sits there in that 3rd position, solidly in 3rd. You see a couple of the other cars around him, the 2 threat level midnight machines, the 27 and the number 12. They are both 1 lap down trying to race with not only Race Clark, but the number 2 of Justin White in the yellow Pennzoil machine to try and get back on to the lead lap. Josh Sobel is the 4th place runner, however. We know, Garrett, that Joshua Sobel can make it to the end of the race. There's no question about that. Has he saved fuel? Has other drivers around him not saved fuel? Is that going to give Joshua Sobel the advantage to get to victory lane here tonight in the Beer Street Journal Grand National Series? Only time will tell. Those are your top 4 that we highlighted. We got Travis White, John Cannizzaro, Matt Cherry, and the red number 56 machine. They're the 4 cars on the left-hand side of your screen. The right 4 cars are all lapped cars. But then, to go back to 5th spot, look at that jump there, Garrett, between Joshua Sobel in 4th and Mike Aiello, who did that different strategy. He took tires under that pit stop, lost 3 seconds on pit road because of that, and now he finds himself in 5th, about 14 seconds, because he just doesn't have that big drafting pack. He's 14 seconds behind the 4th place machine of Matt Cherry. Kyle Lewis is even further back. Kyle there in the number 18 machine running with Dalton Hayes. Lewis was in that lead pack until that last set of pit stops. He pitted on lap number 39. We're unsure whether or not he can even make it to the end of the race. Back behind him, we got Dalton Hayes and Jason Gracias. So this is 6th, 7th, and 8th as they run out there on the racetrack. And Garrett, these are the last 3 drivers on the lead lap, because the next car behind them on the scoring pylon is Stephen Ford, who we saw in that lead pack. But the good news for Dalton Hayes and Jason Gracias, Garrett, they pitted on lap number 40. We've seen these drivers make 20 laps on fuel. We know that they can make it to the end of the race. So that kind of gives people a rundown of what's going on in the lead lap. Then we got that battle up here for the lucky dog position. If there was going to be a caution flag, it's between the number 27 of Stephen Ford, who's given an absolute shot to the back bumper of the 56 of Josh Sobel. But Stephen Ford right there in the number 27. Shane Ledoux, his teammates also racing him for that lucky dog spot, as well as Race Clark and Justin White. So, you got 4 cars here battling for that lucky dog position. Garrett, there's a lot to play for, and they're mixing things up with your race leaders. So, pretty exciting up at the front of the field.
Peter, thank you for that run through the field. And everybody, let's give a thumbs up to the video for Peter Short and the effort he puts into these broadcasts. That was truly incredible. And certainly appreciate you doing that. But as you said, Peter, a lot of battles out here, and only some of them are the battles on the lead lap. But I'd have to think, Peter, if the 23 of Travis White was short on fuel, he would not be leading this pack. I would feel he'd be in the back trying to conserve fuel, unless these guys are all hoping for that final yellow. Or you and I have fuel mileage completely miscalculated. These guys are trolling us. It's one or the other, Peter.
It wouldn't be the first time we've been wrong up here in a 3-wide TV booth. Want to give a big shout out to 3-wide TV's own Drew Eisenman in the Eisen Designs Modified. I don't think that's really how Drew designed it. But Drew is being scored in the 14th spot, 2 laps down, trying to close in on Jason Shue for position. Shue is about a half lap in front of Drew, but of course Drew is in the lead pack, and definitely I don't think there's any cooling concerns on the front of that number 77 machine, that is for sure. Let's check out the chat. We got William Kerwin saying Aiello was blinking last night, and he actually even lost connection last night, so Aiello will probably have that in the back of his head. Hopefully that doesn't rear its head for him here tonight. We saw a little bit of blinking earlier. He's running inside the top 5 in 5th, but a long ways behind this lead pack. In fact, 21 seconds behind this lead pack as of right now. But if you're in this lead pack, Garrett, if you're Travis White, oof, man, they closed up right there on Joshua Watt very, very quickly in the number 20 machine, who pulls down onto the apron to let the lead pack on by. But if you're in this lead group, Garrett, you're one of these front 4 drivers. You're either the 23, the 17, the 56, or the 54. Let's just say they're all good on fuel. What are you going to try and do to try and get your way to the front? Are you going to try and be sneaky, try and take it 3 wide, try and break them up? You got pushers behind you. You got a couple of lap cars back there. It might make you feel a little bit more empowered to do something a little bit crazy with some lappers behind you.
If it's me, Peter, and I might be different in this regard, I want to be on that outside line. I want to have the ability to even move to the 3rd line, as we see a car into the wall there back, but he gets it under control. And I want to have some guys I trust behind me in that top lane and be able to make that run and carry that momentum when the time comes. Now, you'll see other guys that'll want to be on the bottom, lined up as teammates, or even with the guys they've been working with all race, because, I mean, let's be honest, Peter, teammate thing's probably out the window with all the accidents on pit road. And when it comes time to the white flag, I mean, who can you really trust when it comes to going for a win? So I'm interested to see when these guys are going to make the move. Will it be with 1 to go? Will it be before then? Some guys might want to use the top lane to get clear to the bottom and then leave guys hanging. And then you're going to remember that when the time comes. You're not going to trust that guy the second time around.
Yeah, we just saw one car. I think it was the number 2 machine of Justin White go below the yellow line there briefly. Looked like it might have unnerved the number 2, but he was able to keep all 4 wheels underneath him with his steering wheel. But at least for right now, that inside line is just looking a little bit stronger than the outside groove. The number 12 back there We saw Shane Ledoux catch the wall, like you mentioned there, Garrett. He's going to slide back into the low line. But if you're Matt Cherry, lap count's winding down. We're down to just 6 more laps to go here at the Daytona International Speedway. Just 15 miles here in the Daytona 150, brought to you by BeerStreetJournal.com. The lap count's winding down. Do you have a magic number of when you're going to put the pedal to the metal and really try and go for it, G?
Well, Peter, I don't have much success, and I certainly don't win races, but I definitely don't want to wait till the last lap. We're right here, coming 5 to go. Now's the time. See what you have. See if I can make the move. Worst case scenario, hey, you get shuffled to the back of the pack. You try it again. There's enough time. But I'd want to see who's going to go with me, who potentially wants to run that second groove with me, as these front 5 cars are single file, including the lap car of the Sheriff Justin White. I'd want to start seeing now as we see some cars making a move on the top side, but they're a lap down. But they could still factor into this as well as anybody, Peter, as you mentioned before. Yeah,
in fact, right now they're definitely kind of in a position that probably the number 56 doesn't want, and that's the number 56 and the number 17 of Sobel and Cannizzaro, because that outside line is being led by a couple of lapped cars. It's not the cars on the lead lap that are leading that outside train. We've seen people able to make passes on that outside line, but for right now, Sobel completely boxed in by the 27 and the 12, the 2 threat level Midnight Chevys on the high line. So Sobel's boxed in, but of course the question is, do these drivers have enough fuel to make it to the end of the race? Andrew Himmelman just checking back in, saying, well, I leave for a bit, and the whole field is gone. Andrew, you're going to have to go back to lap number 20 here tonight. It was the craziest pit entry I've seen in a long time here, not only in iRacing, but any simulator, as these drivers have definitely had a little bit of a kerfuffle and a half. That is for sure. Going off into turn number 1, Travis White still leads. The outside line is led by the number 27 machine, but the 27 of Stephen Ford is currently being scored 1 lap down. The inside line is led by your race leader, Travis White. Matt Cherry in the 54 tucked up right behind him, and we are now just down to 3 more laps to go. 7.5 miles here at Daytona International Speedway, and of course, if a caution flag was to come out, we would have a Beer Street Journal last call. I love the fact that Beer Street Journal sponsors the overtime that we have here in
2 lap cars ahead as far as you can. If they clear the 23, so be it. It doesn't hurt you any. But while they're up there, use them to pass the cars that you're racing with. And I don't think all said and done when it comes to using lap cars here, as we're on 2 to go.
Yeah, Josh Sobel, the number 56, he's going to jump to the high line. Oof. My goodness, Stephen Ford jumped to the very high line. Don't think that's exactly what Stephen Ford had in mind. But Sobel holding tough out there on the high line, pretty much all by himself. Of course, as I say that, seems like he was falling back there on the backstretch, but the white flag will be in the flagman's hand. And how about this? It looks like our season, if we can make it just about another couple of football fields, we will start off the season caution-free at Daytona. White flag is in the air. 1 lap to go, and here comes Matt Cherry to the high side with a push from Joshua Sobel. We're side by side for the race lead. Justin White pulling up to the back bumper of the number 23, but it has the number 54. Cherry done enough. Can Cherry get down in front of the number 23 as they head coming out of turn number 2? Half a lap to go at Daytona.
Wow, this must be scripted, Peter. You couldn't ask for a better battle on the backstretch. 2 by 2. We only have, 9 cars in the lead pack, but they're all battling for every position and every inch out there.
And, whoa, contact! The 2 gets into the 56, and they're wrecking back behind. We're going to be side by side. Sobel is in a heat coming out of turn number 4, and looks like the 23 gets loose. Here comes Cherry coming to the start-finish line. It will be Matt Cherry winning at Daytona. Travis White coming across in second.
Cannizzaro
third. And you're right, out of fuel coming to the line. But right there, Matt Cherry had enough gas to make it. My, oh my. There's the accident, and there is your winner. Daytona Sports with Jimbo going to victory lane in the BeerStreetJournal.com. 150 at Daytona. What a wacky finish to start off the season. What a wacky race to start off the season.
What an incredible race, a wacky race is accurate. We have the Stay Tuned sports car going to Victory Lane in the Beer Street Journal series. Maybe tomorrow night we'll have the Beer Street Journal car going to Victory Lane in the Stay Tuned sports series. I believe that's Stan Hausman driving the truck, so we'll see what happens. But what a great race. National Sim Racing Association, all live here on 3Y TV, and congratulations to Matt Cherry. Definitely deserved this one.
And of course, now for tonight's Beer Street Journal winning moment with Matt Cherry. And I'm curious to know, Garrett, if that number 54 is even still under fire, because I saw a little bit of a flame come out the exhaust pipe. Sure enough, it is. Matt Cherry had enough fuel to get to the end of the race, doing a donut there in the infield. We're going to have to go back, of course, and get a look at tonight's final lap and find out really how he did it. We'll have to jump on board there, Garrett, with the number 54 of Cherry, because what a great finish to the race here tonight. Just going back and seeing where Josh Sobel finished, he was able to crawl across the line in fourth because of that big gap that he had on Mike Aiello. But let's see if we can sort this one out and see Matt Cherry making that pass for the win here on 3Y TV. And here we go. This was the winning move down the back stretch with help from Josh Sobel. Watched the 2 get into the 56, and it was on from there. Unfortunately, Sobel getting wickedly turned around, ending up in a heap right there. But let's slow this one down into slow motion. And Garrett, I'm not sure if there was a little bit of contact with the number 23. Maybe he was indeed out of fuel there, because it just seemed like he was slow. There's more bumping and banging right there. And visibly, that 23 very slow across the start-finish line. But Cherry, with all that help from the 56 of Sobel, might have... in fact, he's just jumping in the chat. He took my words from me, saying, at least my push helped someone. And I was going to say, you know, Josh Sobel kind of sacrificed himself for that number 54 of Matt Cherry to go to victory lane. Definitely going to be some interesting interviews, that is for sure. Let's make sure we can get all of those drivers here into the 3Y TV booth, starting, of course, with our third place finisher, John Cannizzaro. Just making sure we can get Travis White down here into the waiting room, and same thing with Matt Cherry. It's going to be fun to find out whether or not a couple of those drivers ran out of fuel or not. Let's see if we can dial up tonight's third place finisher. That would be, of course, driver of the number 17 Texaco Haviland Ford Mustang. And let's see, there he is. John Cannizzaro, Peter Short, 3Y TV booth. Got a copy?
Hello, yes I do.
Well, I'll tell you what, John, what a crazy finish. I mean, tonight's race was crazy. Ever since that pit lane mishap that happened there, you pitted one lap earlier than that when that big brawl broke out. But I think the big question is, how was fuel there at the end? It looked definitely pretty close from a couple of different drivers' perspective. Did that play a role in where you ended up here tonight? And how about that late race contact that happened there between Josh Sobel and the number 2 right in front of you?
Yeah, I had to save a lot. I couldn't, I guess we can say, go as fast as I wanted. I had to sit behind White because I was almost a lap short. If I didn't save, I wasn't making it back. The pit road thing, it's a little unfortunate. Jeff got in it. It's a teammate. He was going to help me. So it sucks for him, but it's racing, white flag, everybody's trying to win, and contact, and, well, I'm no stranger to that, unfortunately, so still got third. I'm happy with it.
Yeah, definitely, all things considered, a pretty good way to start off your season here tonight at Daytona. And, you know, coming into Daytona, I don't think anyone really has any hopes, or any high hopes. But what would you say about your race here tonight? Is it better than you expected?
Well, I couldn't get the steering offset right the whole practice. I was pretty uncomfortable going off corners, but I think it was good. Made a few new friends, maybe a few enemies. It is what it is. I think I'm not a bad super speedway driver. I don't have very good luck. You might as well call me Ryan Newman, but yeah, I feel like it was a good race. Led quite a few laps.
Well, that is for sure. We go from the high banks here at Daytona International Speedway to a much smaller racetrack next week at the Nashville Fairgrounds. What are your thoughts about going to Nashville to the little Nashville track?
Big change. Gonna just see what it brings. I'm not a short track person, so God help me.
Well, hopefully it goes well. We might see a lot more cautions than we saw here tonight as we go in caution free. But hey, John, before we let you go, any shout outs you'd like to give out?
My father, I know he's watching. Jeff Price for having to deal with me in the voice call all the time. With Sim Shots, Ben Adams, all those guys. I know they let me hop on the team this season for trucks and Grand National, so big thank you to them.
Well, John, congratulations on your podium finish here tonight, and we'll see you again tomorrow night, I believe, here on 3 Wide TV at Daytona once again. Maybe you'll have better luck in the Friday series.
I hope so.
All right, that's going to do it for tonight's third place interview. Let's see if Mr. Garrett Gleason has caught up with tonight's runner-up. Might have been out of fuel in the number 23 machine, Travis White there, G.
Hey, Travis, scared up in the booth. Seemed like you played strategy almost perfectly there, buddy, but I don't know if you ran out of fuel coming to the line. Let us know how those last couple laps transpired for you out there on track in the number 23.
Well, I mean, to break the big news is my crew chief is fired, or the fuel man's fired. Somebody's fired because I run out of gas coming off 4. Like, I knew it was going to be close, and I told Matt, told him I think I could make it, and it was probably a good idea of him to go ahead and pull up into the next lane. And yeah, I run out, man. That's just what happened.
Yeah, it definitely looked that way in the broadcast. I even showed it up to Peter. I think he ran out of gas because the only thing that made sense at that point, you just had no momentum coming to the line. Crazy race out there. A lot of that incident on pit road took a lot of good cars out. How did you go about playing the strategy tonight as far as your pit stops go? Obviously, you were a little bit short at the end. Did you believe your strategy to be short from the beginning of the race when you couldn't make it as far as the other cars, or did you think you had a chance?
I think if I wouldn't have come out so strong that last run, if I'd have been behind somebody and got to draft more, I think I'd have been good. I would have been able to save that like 500 feet, something like that I needed to save. So I mean, if I'd have got behind somebody and just ran a lap or two behind somebody, but it's hard to do that, leading, you get greedy, want to stay in that clean air, because once you get up front, it's hard to pass, it's hard for somebody else to get around you. But then if you let somebody else go to kind of save a little gas, it's going to be that just as tough to get back around them. So, I mean, once I got it out front, I wanted to stay out front. And that was my Achilles heel.
Well, it certainly wasn't the first place finish that you had, or at least position on the track coming to the line there, but you can't complain with second place in the season opener here in the Beer Street Journal Grand National Series. Next week, we're headed to the Nashville Fairgrounds with this series. I assume you're going to race the full season. What are your thoughts going to Nashville next week?
Fairgrounds is a short track, right?
Yes, sir.
Right on. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Second place, that's a great run. I was telling myself I wanted to finish tonight and not get caught up in nothing, and have a good solid top 10. So P2 really, really does bring that home as far as getting the season started off on a good note.
Well, certainly congratulations. I look forward to racing with you tomorrow night, I assume. Any shout outs before we let you go?
Yeah, let me give a shout out to Simbox boys. Looks like I need to hit up Chris Darling, MaxGrafix, maybe get me a paint job put on this Xfinity car. It's definitely it's rolling around with a stock iRacing paint, and I know that Chris can throw me something really sweet together. He does a really good job, and he does a good job with the league too. And congrats to Matt Cherry for winning the race tonight. And you guys for up in the booth. I look forward to watching the broadcast.
Well, we appreciate the kind words, Travis. We'll see you tomorrow. And Chris Darling, get this man a paint scheme for next week. He's earned it.
Thanks, guys.
Well, that's going to do it with tonight's second place finisher, driver of the number 23. Someone is fired. We don't know who. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's you, Garrett. But I don't think it's Matt Cherry because Matt Cherry is in victory lane, winner of the BeerStreetJournal.com Daytona 150. And my, oh my, Matt, what an exciting last couple of laps here at Daytona International Speedway, getting the job done for all the people back at home. Talk us through those last couple of laps. How did you expect those lap cars to factor into the equations late in the race? And just kind of tell us about all the craziness that happened there on pit road.
Oh man, I thought I was on a road course coming down pit road on that first stop because everybody was wrecking. I was doing everything I could to avoid it, and we had those lap cars up front there at the end. And, I was trying to work with them, get out front, but they just left me hanging. So I ducked back in, and to be honest with you, I thought I was going to finish third or fourth, top five somewhere, but things worked out. And I know Travis, he was short on fuel. I knew he wasn't going to make it, so I had to get out from behind him.
Well, you made the good call doing so, and of course with the accident that happened behind you, it put you in the prime spot to take home the checkered flag here tonight at Daytona. How important is it to kind of get your season off on the right foot, especially with the fact that it went very wrong for a lot of drivers there in the first 20 laps?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm glad we got the win because super speedways. I'm not the best at. I'm better at like mile and a half and some short tracks, but it's gonna be a good season for sure.
Yeah, it is going to be a very interesting season. That is for sure. Of course, we did mention that next week the Beer Street Journal Grand National Series goes to Nashville Fairgrounds. Of course, we got Texas Motor Speedway. We got Lucas Oil this season. That's going to be a fun one. Pocono, Sonoma, Atlanta, Martinsville, Talladega, Richmond, and then, of course, the playoffs, North Wilkesboro, Auto Club, Bristol, Five Flags, Charlotte. There's 15 races in this particular championship, Matt. Any of those 14 left that you're really looking forward to on the schedule?
Texas is going to be it. I love that place. The last two times that I've ran there, which is I ran there in the Cup car, and I've won both races. And it's just, I don't know, the new configuration they got there. Like turns 1 and 2, you kind of got to drive it like a short track. 3 and 4, you can pretty much hold it wide open. But in these cars, you're going to have to do a lot of lifting.
Yeah, absolutely. Turn number 2 at Texas Motor Speedway is usually pretty deadly. And I think with these cars, it's going to be definitely quite deadly. But that is where we'll go in 2 weeks from tonight on September 30th. Of course, next week, Nashville Fairgrounds. And Matt, any thoughts about Nashville next week?
Well, I'm not the greatest there, but I think I'll be pretty good. I don't hate the place, but it's just kind of a mutual feeling.
Well, it's going to be a fun one next week, that is for sure. Before we let you go, any shout-outs you'd like to give out?
Yeah, I'd like to give a shout-out to Chris. He works his butt off on getting these leagues up and going. I know he's got some new people in here. We're going to see how the racing is. I hope we got some good competitors this season. I like getting out here racing hard.
Absolutely. Going to be a fun season. Congratulations on getting the win in the BeerStreetJournal.com 150 here on 3 Wide TV. Best of luck next week, Matt.
All right. Thank you. We'll see you.
All right, folks. That's going to do it for tonight's race winner, driver of the number 54 machine, Matt Cherry. A great win for him. Did not run out of fuel, unlike some of the other drivers there at the end, Garrett, and great to see Matt Cherry kind of get off on the right foot, you know?
Yeah, absolutely, Peter. Great to see Matt Cherry take it to victory lane in our opening race, and if we're going to have finishes like this season here in the Beer Street Journal Grand National Series, I can't wait to call the next one. Hopefully my Giants won't be playing during the next one, so I'll be a little more focused and I'll try to do better.
Well, I'll tell you what, Beer Street Journal, I love the craft beer. We're getting pictures actually coming in from some of these drivers from certain craft beers. Jason Gracia saying he's giving a shout out here tonight to Crooked Hammock Brewery and their business in the front beer. Pretty cool to see that. We're going to try and have some spotlights throughout the season of some craft beers. And of course, all the other sponsors here in the National Sim Racing Association that helped put together this series. We got to give them a shout out. There's of course links in the description. MaxGrafix.co is one of those. Brookstone Animal Hospital, BrookstoneVet.com. If you're in the greater Atlanta area, make sure you check out our friends over at Brookstone Vet. Taz Racing Customs, Sim Shots. If you want your custom diecast, Taz Racing Customs is the place to go to get a custom diecast. Of course, Sim Shots is the place to go to get your pictures of your simulator, hence the name SimShot. So there's a link in the description to that as well. But I want to thank everyone else here in the National Sim Racing Association. One more thing that we have to do before we kind of let everything go here tonight. Let's see if we can bring up tonight's final race results. How about that here in the Sim Shots? Not Sim Shots. What am I saying? The Beer Street Journal 150 at Daytona. Matt Cherry, Travis White coming home 1-2. John Cannizzaro 3rd. Josh Sobel, Mike Aiello there in 5th. Jason Gracias, Kyle Lewis in 6th and 7th. Dalton Hayes, Shane Ledoux 8th and 9th. And rounding out your top 10 in the threat level Midnight Chevy, Stephen Ford there, Garrett.
Yeah, the rest of these guys, not the night they were hoping for, but Race Clark comes home in 11th. The Sheriff Justin White in 12th. Jason Shue got left hanging at the altar, finishes 13th. Drew Eisenman, who will be here in the booth and be able to recap those last couple laps from his perspective, comes home in 14th. Jeff Price, 15th. Joshua Watt in 16th. Jeffrey Vickery had some speed, got caught laps down, and finished in 17th. Floppy Teller was not much of a factor tonight, unfortunately, after that pit road contact. It comes home in 18th. Corey Shellman in 19th, and Brady Smith rounding out our top 20, Peter.
Yeah, and then back behind them, the retirees from that big pit road accident that we had here tonight, Jeremiah Llewellyn and Martin Plute in 21st, 22nd, Chris Darling, Ben Masher in 23rd and 24th, and of course, Garrett, you're alongside me up here in the booth on 3 Wide TV, so your name's at the very bottom. You're last tonight, Garrett, and probably not the last time we'll see that. I'm just kidding there, but I'm just kidding. But hey, folks, it's been a lot of fun here on 3 Wide TV. And of course, our National Sim Racing Association Beer Street Journal Grand National Series is underway. And like I mentioned, we will be back here, myself and Garrett Gleason, next week on Thursday, September 23rd at 8:30 Eastern. Garrett, we went caution-free here tonight. I don't expect to go caution-free at Nashville Fairgrounds.
I don't think so, Peter. If I was a gambling man, I am a gambling man. So maybe I'll put some money on that next week that we're going to have more than 0 cautions, buddy.
Yeah, I think the odds that there will be 0 cautions are probably, I'd say 100 to 1, something like that. Might be worth putting $1 on. But hey, folks, it was a lot of fun here tonight on 3 Wide TV. Really thank you for jumping in, joining us, checking out the sponsors here in the BeerStreetJournal.com Grand National Series, and we will see you again next week here on the channel. But until then, stay safe, have a good night, and we shall see ya!